All right, we're here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on the island nation of Barbados. Standing here behind me is the George Washington House. This is where George Washington visited in 1751 when he was 19 years old. Some interesting stories about George Washington, because among the many quotes that he was famous for, he said this. He said, "Let us raise up a standard to which the wise and honest can repair. The results are in the hands of God." And that's what I want to talk about today, is the idea of establishing a standard. You know, we're the standard bearers of our organizations. As leaders, we're all about what that organization stands for. A standard is like a flag. It represents an army, or it represents a nation. And so our standards represent what our organizations are all about. And this takes me to what I call E to the fifth power leadership. And you'll be hearing more about this because we're going to go through a whole series on it. But E to the fifth power says this. Number one, we establish the standard. In other words, what is it that your organization stands for? What is your vision? What is your mission? What are the essential character qualities that you would demand and require out of your officers? You've got to decide what your organization is all about, what it stands for, and what it is to be a part and a member of that organization. That's part of what a good leader does. So the first E is establish the standard. The second E is to embrace the standard. In other words, this is about our communication skills. Everything that we do must be oriented around embracing that standard. It must become who we are as an organization. So our policies have to reflect our standards. Our promotion decisions have to reflect our standards. Our disciplinary decisions have to reflect our standards. It should be a part and parcel of our training, of everything that we do within the organization. The third E, and our E to the fifth power of leadership, is embody the standard. And by that I mean you must be the role model. You must exemplify that standard at every level. It must be part of your DNA. It's who you are. You must become one with that standard, or your officers will instantly see the disconnect and they're not going to be inspired to follow it. The fourth E in our E to the fifth power is to encourage the standard. How do we make that character connection? How do we encourage our officers to recognize the good behavior, to recognize the good character that produced that behavior, so that we can encourage them to emulate that example, the example that you're setting for them as a leader of your organization. And the fifth E, or the E to the fifth power leadership, is enforce the standard. Yes, there are times as leaders that we must become the enforcement officer. We must become the disciplinarian. And most of you have some type of a progressive model of discipline that you're using within your organization. But how many of you have a character-based model? You know, usually our disciplinary procedures are based upon behavior. If you do this, you get punished, or if you don't do that, you get punished. But it's not about what's going on in the heart. So in E to the fifth power leadership, we talk about how to make the character connection to enforce our standards from a character-based perspective. And here's my thought. If we do the first four right, if we establish the standard, if we embrace the standard, if we embody the standard, and if we encourage the standard, we really shouldn't have to do the fifth one very often. That should be those rare occasions where the first four don't work. We're going to have more about this later as we embark on this journey to look at all five of the E's: establish, embrace, embody, encourage, and enforce the standard as we go forth in this next series of videos. Sheriff Ray Nash from the island of Barbados.